All right. Welcome back, Ellen Frost from Local Color Flowers, to chat with me yet again about how to sell local as a florist. And this time we're going to talk more about retail. We just had an episode about weddings and corporate events and so forth, but now we're going to talk about retail, just sort of like customers walking into the shop or single orders where you're delivering or subscriptions and so forth. So welcome back, Ellen. I'm glad you're here.
Thanks. Thanks for having me. Glad to be back.
So you've done a lot more retail than me. I've never had a shop.
Yep.
So do you want to just tell everybody a little bit about your, like the framework over the years of what you were doing retail wise?
Yeah. I have done a bunch of different retail stuff, although I will say, our intention was never, when we started, was not to do retail. We were going to do weddings, and that was sort of the focus of our work. Um, and it wasn't really until we bought our space that we thought that some retail could work. So our retail is strange uh, in that maybe
It's custom to you.
unconventional. Yes, unconventional. We do right now 4 hours a week of retail. Um, and that is just a Saturday morning open to the community to come in and buy flowers, both single stems and arrangements. We've also done retail sales through like an open studio style, where people just come in during open hours. Usually that's like a Wednesday afternoon or Thursday afternoon. Come in and buy single stems. You can stay and make something, or you can just take those to go. We've also done subscriptions, which we've done either just a bucket subscription where you get loose flowers. We've done wrapped bouquet subscriptions. We've done arrangement subscriptions. Uh, and we've also done, orders for delivery. So retail orders that go out for a birthday or
Mhm,
whatever.
mhm.
So we've done sort of all of that sort of retail over our history. Some has worked better than others, but we have tried all of those things.
Nice, nice. So, for the sake of this conversation, I think I want to focus mostly on the sort of more traditional retail of like
Yeah.
somebody needs a birthday arrangement. Maybe they walk in, maybe they order online.
Yeah.
How have you found over the years the best way to communicate the that you're only using local
Yeah.
and what they get to choose and sort of like the parameters around that?
Well, similarly to weddings, we don't let them choose a lot. Um, They can choose their price point. So on our website, you can choose, well, let me go back. On the website, if you order on the website, you can choose a wrapped bouquet or a vase arrangement. So you've got
Okay.
two options. And within those, there are price ranges. So starting at, I don't know, $60 to $150 or something.
Hmm.
Uh, in that, you can, on the website, it says everything is designer's choice. There is
Okay.
no, there are no, there's no drop down of like, let me choose this thing. There are no real, like, you can get the sweetheart bouquet or you can get there's none of that.
Right.
The only thing there is in terms of pictures is samples, pictures of the size of like what does $150 vase arrangement look like? This
Okay.
is the
Okay.
general size. Um, but everything is designer's choice. And we are really clear again with our language where it says, everything we source is, all the flowers we use are locally sourced. Everything is based on what the farmers have on the day of your order.
Hmm.
And every day the flowers in our shop change. And I
Okay.
always am really clear about that because when you don't know like the ins and outs of how our business works, you think, okay, well, if I order for Monday, I should be able to order the same thing if I get it on Friday. And honestly, that's just not the case
Hmm.
because we might get stuff in on Monday, use it all up by Wednesday. Wednesday, we get another shipment of stuff from the growers coming in. That gets us through Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. That might be
Mhm.
totally different than what we got Monday and Tuesday. I mean, it's
Yeah.
just a weird, it's how our relationships with the growers work. Some only deliver beginning of the week, some only deliver at
Mhm.
the end of the week. They
Mhm.
grow different things. And so we have just been really careful to say everything is designer's choice. We
Okay.
do have a note section where where there's a note that says, if this is for a special occasion, tell us the special occasion.
Okay.
Um, Also, we'll say, if there is a color palette that you like, let us know. We can't promise anything, but we will
Okay.
certainly take that into account.
Okay.
So that's really the only feedback from a customer that we can take. And some people, that is just not acceptable. Like some people are
Yeah.
just like, that is
Yeah.
not going to work. Like, again,
Right.
if I can't see what I'm getting, uh, I don't want it. And that's
Yeah.
totally fine. Like we will refer them to another florist who you can
Mhm.
choose a
Mhm.
more traditional, recipe A, recipe B, recipe C.
Do
But for us,
you
couldn't.
Yeah. Do your designers, when they see the order come in and the customer said, like, I want a yellow and red design,
Mhm.
it, is the team really going into the cooler and really working hard to get that yellow and red
Yes.
design? Or is it just sort of like, yeah, but there's these like, I don't know, freesia, white freesia that came on Monday. It's now Thursday. We really need to get them out the door. We're gonna
That's
start
a
like in
great question.
yeah.
Um, because first in, first out, we
Yeah,
really
you
try to stick with
perishability. Yeah, yeah, that's
perishability is
spoilage.
a huge issue.
Yeah.
Um, but we do try best we can. So, like, say that was the situation. They want yellow and red, but we have a bunch of white freesia that we want to move. We would definitely try to do yellow and red with splashes of that white freesia.
Right. Okay.
So we're trying to do both things. We're trying to make sure
Right.
that we are moving the products that we need to move.
Mhm.
Um, but also, if you say yellow and red, like, I mean, it's very, we say very clearly, this is this is just the suggestion that you like. If we
Right.
had somebody say yellow and red and we put yellow and red in it, and there was also orange and white, that would be, totally fine with
Yeah.
us.
Yeah.
And we've not, of course, I mean, there's been, the random people that are like, oh, I really wanted just red and yellow.
Right. Right.
But for the most part, as long as those colors are shown in there. And sometimes we can't do it,
I
and
was
that,
gonna say, what if it's like yellow and red and all you got is pink and purple in the cooler? What do you do
yeah,
then?
that's totally fine. I mean,
Okay.
it says designer's choice, and the color
Okay.
is really just a suggestion.
Okay.
Um, if they're like, it's a funeral and the only color we want is white, then I would probably would send an email and say, either I can't do it
Mhm.
or, you know, I can't, like, we had this just recently, actually. Somebody was
Yeah.
like, I want a purple and white bouquet. It's my wife's favorite colors. Purple and white are her favorite colors, whatever.
Mhm.
And I just knew it was like at the end of December. We just did not have
Oh,
that
you got no purple.
color.
Right.
Um, so I said, I'm happy to make this, but the colors we have are these,
Yeah.
generally red,
Yeah.
white,
Okay.
green. So if you want that, great. If you don't, great.
Right.
And he was like, no, of course we will, we'll take anything. That's what she likes.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
some people might say, okay, never mind. She really wants purple. I'm going to go with somebody else. I think the sticking point for us is always just like, how much interaction can we have on a
Mm.
single order about these
Mhm.
things? That's why we really try to just make it's designer's choice. If you have something you like, we'll try to fit it in, but really it's on us to create something with what we have in the shop.
Mm.
Um, and so, making sure that's on the website, making sure that, in all of our storytelling, social media, anywhere, that we're really, really just drilling down on designer's choice. Uh,
Mhm.
we just, and even, for somebody starting out that's doing retail and using local stuff, I would say that has to be the way to go. Um,
Mm.
we buy from a ton of growers, and we have a lot of product available. But there is just no way for us to know on any given day whether or not we're going to have yellow. Sometimes we
Yeah.
will, sometimes we won't. And it's not even that there isn't yellow out in the world on that day. It's just that we didn't order it and it's
Right.
not in the cooler. Like that's
Yeah.
just, you know, not the case. So I would really recommend sticking with designer's choice and, letting go of the work that people are like, I really have to have this very specific thing.
Yeah. But then you're kind of alienating so many people that way. So are you okay with that?
Yes. Yeah, this gets, I think, to the idea that we are not, we can't be everything to everyone.
Yeah.
And
Amen.
in the beginning, I think, and you probably felt like this too, like for wedding work, and we felt it for wedding work too, and for retail. Um, of course, you want to say yes to everything.
Mm-hmm.
You want the work. I
Mm-hmm.
think a lot of us are, people pleasers
Mm-hmm.
who are in this industry. So of course, you want to make it work for them. And uh, I think the sooner you can learn that you're not for everybody, the less heartache you're going to have,
Yeah.
because there's going to be a lot less like hand wringing, like, oh, can I get it
Mm-hmm.
done? Can I
Mm-hmm.
make it what they want? Can I,
Mm-hmm.
you know, how many
Or
sleepless
just
nights?
anxiety when you hand it to somebody and being
Yes,
like, oh, I hope they like it. I don't know. And it's like, well, if you didn't set up any expectations,
yes.
then and you think they're pretty
100%.
flowers, it should be fine. Yeah.
Yeah. So yes, you will be turned people will turn away from you. You will
Hmm.
not get all of the jobs that you get inquiries for.
Yeah.
But I would argue that's great. That
Yeah.
is that is the scenario that you want, because
Hmm.
you want to find the people that want the thing that you want. That's
Hmm.
the magic of having your business, right? Is like
Yeah.
having a product and finding the right customer base for that product.
Yeah. And there's this idea that we both ascribe to is the smallest viable market
Mhm.
possible, where all too often as small business owners, we are quick to jump into the mindset of more is more is more is more. I want as many customers as possible. I want to offer as many options as possible. So like
Yes.
maybe I should do a quick dive down a rabbit hole here of my retail offerings at my farm has always been pretty much limited to a subscription service. And when you first start a flower CSA or subscription, you'll be tempted to give people so many choices. You're like, I just want to cast the widest net possible. And so you're going to do things like offer a mason jar arrangement, offer a bucket of flowers, offer a big wrap bouquet, offer a little wrapped bouquet, like offer just a bunch
Order a
of
pickup,
flowers or
order a delivery,
right.
order.
Yeah,
Yep.
delivery, no, this drop off, that drop off, and you end up with like, if you have 16 variables, that could give the customer like I'm really bad at math here, people, but let's
A
just say it's
lot.
well over 100 choices.
Right.
Like a lot, 100 ways you could do this.
Yep.
And that's because you just want to make sure there's something for everyone.
Yes.
And at the end, all you do is give your customers decision fatigue and you give yourself exhaustion. And you shouldn't try to have everyone as a customer. So
Yep.
the idea here is something that we pulled from Seth Godin has a little book called This is Marketing, a little orange book. Highly
Everyone should
recommend
read
it.
it.
Yeah,
Yes.
every small business owner should read that book. I'm going to repeat it again. This is Marketing by Seth Godin. If you haven't read it, you should. And in there, he talks about the smallest viable market, like in terms of like the number of customers you can have. And that was mind blowing for me. And I think for you, Ellen, when we read
Totally.
that, because it was like, why are you trying to track down all of
Yeah.
these people? Like it's a lot of extra work to try to track them all down. There's a much greater chance you're going to disappoint people and have unhappy customers when you cast a wider net. And then your real customers, the customers who are really valuable to you, are going to be less served because you're going to be stretched too thin.
Yeah.
And instead, if you can just have 10 really
Yep.
solid repeat customers who
Oh
come
yeah.
and patronize you week after week, year after year, that is it. That's all you
And
need a
for
lot of times.
retail, I would say like this has been this has been so key for us in retail because, I think both of us, until I read that book and until I really had that concept, it was like, we need more volume. We need
Hmm.
more people. We need to figure out how to attract more people into the shop to get them to buy our products. When we had, you know, those 10 or those 20 really good customers that came every single week, that ordered flowers for every single holiday, for every single birthday party, for every single dinner party, like every single thing, where if I could shift my attention to them and give them the best product and the best attention and the best customer service, it was so much easier to have them just come back every time
Yeah.
rather than trying to cast this wide net for people who were not really our people.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I think for retail, that is like critically important because it really will save you time, effort, money, um, to just have not a lot of customers like that. It
Yeah.
doesn't really work. Like that casting of that big net really doesn't
Yeah.
work.
Yeah.
Really just find your people, the people
Yeah.
that care about the product that you have, and just serve them and serve
Really, really well.
them and serve them. I
Yeah.
think that's the magic. That's the magic, I
Yeah.
think, in retail.
Yeah. Yeah. And to just make sure that those customers are very well educated about what you
Yeah.
offer and how you offer it and the value that you're bringing, because so much of the work that we do as small business owners is customer education. And
Yes.
that can be exhausting as you have to sort of re-educate over and over and over again. And yeah, you can't have a stagnant pool of customers, for the record.
Sure.
You can't just rely on the same 10 customers forever because, people move or age or
Yeah.
whatever, incomes change or whatever. So you do have to continue to siphon in some
Of
new
course.
new blood. But it's just so much easier when you do business with the same people over and over again. And I would say it fills your cup up so much more too, in
Oh,
terms
yeah.
of like, I love the people that have been with me forever. Every time I see them, I feel so
Yep.
happy. I feel connected. They don't exhaust me the way new customers do.
Yeah.
And that's just a really way to like sustain ourselves as business
And
owners.
if you are committed to that education piece, which I think if you're doing local flowers, you have to be. You just
Yeah.
have to
Yeah.
be you have to be committed to the education piece.
Yeah.
But if you're committed to it and you do it well, your customers are going to be as excited about the local pieces as you are. We have
Yeah.
customers who didn't know anything about flowers, like zero, and are now coming in and saying like, when are Mel's peonies going to be ready? When is the tuberose? When is that pink
Yeah.
tuberose from Leon coming? Like,
Yeah.
they're going to be as excited as you are. And that makes your job so much easier because they have the same level of interest and the same
Hmm.
knowledge that you have about these flowers. And there's not going to be a time where you feel like you have to be like, I'm giving them this thing and I'm just really not
Yeah.
sure if they're going to like it because it doesn't have, something, or it's this color, or,
Hmm. Hmm.
they're celebrating the fact that they're not knowing what it is until they get it with
Right.
you.
Yeah. With
Um,
you. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
And you're also like, and when you're talking about Mel's Peonies and Leon and everybody, like you're building a community too, which
Mhm.
is something that's like the real value proposition, I feel like, for so many small businesses is, yeah, we can sell local. Obviously, we're doing that in a sustainability angle of it. But what I come back to over and over again in all of my sales channels, like it
Yeah.
doesn't matter. It's like it can be with the subscription service, it can be with workshops, which I do so many of, it can be through the Philly Floral Guild.
Yeah.
What we're ultimately selling is the community, the sense of connectedness, the like, yeah, somebody knows about Mel's Peonies and the story connected to Mel's Peonies. Like that is, that's like, sounds weird, but it's true. It's like, it's almost like tribal knowledge. You feel
Mhm.
like you're part of a tribe that has a heritage, that has a vocal history,
Right.
like
A
it has
shared
a
language,
story. Yeah.
shared
Yeah.
experience.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's what we all want so much of
Yeah.
the time. So it's like yes, it's flowers, but it has so much more to do with the connectedness of the
Totally.
people. Yeah.
I'll tell you a funny story that in terms of like selling. We had this customer at the end of December who came in and she said, "Oh, remember me? I come every year looking for the blue ice cedar that Bob brings." Like
Yeah,
she literally comes in once a year. So I
just
had
for
not
that.
seen her in a year, um, and she knew Bob. Like she said that Bob brings, and I was like, "Oh, it's here. We have it." And um, another customer, Denzel, was standing next to her, and he was like, "What is that you're talking about?" And she told this entire story. She knew where Bob's farm was. She knew everything that I
Wow.
would have said in the sales pitch. And then Denzel was like, "Okay, I'll take those," and, like, got a bunch of them and, like, walked away with them, and then
Great.
later said to me, "How can I grow these for myself because these are so great?" So, I was
Oh,
like, what a full circle moment of me
yeah.
feeling like I'm always educating, I'm always telling those stories, and to have somebody walk in who just comes in once a year and being able to sell that to another customer,
Right,
I
right.
was like, this is amazing. This is
It
like
is amazing.
yeah.
That is so cool. And also that woman that came in, she's now gonna that reinforced for her the like this value beyond stems
Yes.
of what she know like her knowledge was super
Oh,
valuable then
totally.
to Denzel, and she also probably
Right.
felt value of being able to promote your business and know that something had grown because of her knowledge. So
Well,
that's
yes.
just going to make her an even more loyal
Oh,
customer
yeah.
over and over again. So yeah, I think it's cool when we can see our customers interact like that. Like I know that traditional retail, like having a shop, is
Yeah.
got such high overhead, and it's kind of a sinking there's sort of
Hold on.
being interactive in person experiences really helps sort of perpetuate your value proposition. It helps you perpetuate what intangible value
Mhm.
comes with the business that whatever business you have. It doesn't even
Yeah.
have to just be flowers, but it has a lot to do with that. So
Yeah.
yeah, I love that story that you tell, Ellen.
And I think retail, like if you're somebody who's thinking about retail, I would really just say too that for local stuff, maybe for any retail, but I think there is like this idea that you have to be like open 7 days a week, or you've got to be in
Hmm.
a shop like 8 hours a day, or like I'm a big proponent of like really being creative and thinking outside of the box about how you can do retail,
Mm.
and making local flowers accessible to more people. Um, if that means like being open for 4 hours, if it means having, a farm stand, if it means as a florist, if you're a studio florist, maybe opening your studio up once a month, like
Hmm.
there's lots of ways to do that that isn't like the traditional, like have a shop on Main Street, be open every
Yeah.
day.
Yeah.
There are lots of creative ways, I think, to do retail if you want to do it. I think there's lots of creative ways to do it.
Yeah, and I think that's like with your open Saturdays that you have, where
Mhm.
it's just 4 hours a week, but it still lets your community come together and stay connected so
Yeah,
that it's not
totally.
just this sort of glossy photo on your phone kind of situation. It's you actually
Yes.
go in and you make relationships and so forth. So,
And the other
yeah.
thing I'd say, and we were having this conversation about Saturdays the other day, so it's like
Hmm.
front of mind, is that one of the things that we thought about when we were, and this is just retail in general, this isn't
Yeah.
specific to local flowers, but retail in general, is that we could be open more days. We could, offer more services. The thing is that if we have found that condensing it into a 1-day, 4-hour window and offering, all the things, stems,
Mhm.
bouquets, centerpieces, pickups, orders, sort of like squishing it into a smaller time frame sort of forces people to come
Mm.
during that time, and it does feel like it's busy and it's alive, and there's like a, I don't know, it feels great to be in the space. It's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
people are interacting and there's community, and if you were open like every day 8 hours a day, like you would not have that same
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah. You would just have somebody come in here, then like you know, 3
Right.
hours later, maybe somebody else comes in, but they're all kind of walking into an empty shop, which
Yeah.
does not get the same buzz or the same sales, frankly, as a place that feels busy and lively. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I think your unconventional approach is actually pretty genius. So,
I would say, like, another thing about, like, having local stuff, and education is for retail, especially
mhm,
people walking in on Saturday, is
yeah,
that every week it's different.
yeah,
And we really have to um, use that education tool to let people know, as much as we can, like it's just this week for this mock orange and it's awesome.
mm,
So we'll really try to like highlight like this special thing this week. And yes, we've
okay,
got tulips, and yes, we have ranunculus, and they'll be around for another month. But this week specifically, we've got this special thing, Korean forsythia, or
right,
whatever it is that's going to be the 1 week kind of thing
mhm,
uh,
mhm,
that we want to buy from the growers, but we really need to highlight it to make sure
mhm,
that we can sell it in a retail situation.
yeah, yeah. So how
And
do
I
you
think
do
that is
like
fun. Like that makes
yeah,
it fun for people because they can expect to come in and see something new that they
yeah.
didn't otherwise know about.
And learn about. Yeah. So
Mhm.
do you like have like a spotlight you literally shine directly on? Like how do you do that in the retail space? What's your process for highlighting something?
Yeah. Anything like that, we will, first of all, we'll try to do some prep work during the week. So we'll be
Mm,
posting about it on social media. We'll kind of be hyping it up.
okay.
Um, and we'll show it on social, like on its own. We'll try to do something about the grower. We'll try to show it in a design. We'll
Okay.
talk about, oh, this Korean forsythia, it's so fragrant. It smells like this.
Mhm.
Like we'll kind of hype it up so that people, when
Mhm.
they come in, are like, where is that
Where is it?
Korean?
Yeah.
And they do. It is really like they really do. But not only that, but when they do get it, they know all those things too now. They
Mm,
know how it was grown. They know Leon. They know,
right.
so they have a lot of information when they come in looking for it. And the way our shop is set up, it's just our studio. So, it's
Mhm.
not like a store.
Right.
Um, so we have like sort of one of our work tables, it's filled with flowers that's like right in the front when you walk in. So that
Okay.
specifically has any of like the new or the like that's sort of like the best spot. Um, and then we'll also make like little signs that say like smell these Baltimore City grown roses so
Hmm.
that people can sort of interact. They
Right.
first learn something. Oh, these are fragrant. These were grown in Baltimore. These are roses.
Right.
Then they can interact with them. And then, buying them, it feels like a no brainer.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great strategy. I love that. I'm always like, I wish I could have people come and just enjoy the flowers, but then I remember I'm an introvert and I hate that. So, never mind. It seems cool.
You just need
But when
like
you
the
talk about it, it's
extroverted helper. You need like an
right.
extroverted helper.
It's just when I hear you talk about it, I'm like, that sounds so fun. I'd
It
like to
is
do
fun.
that.
It is really fun. It's Saturday is definitely like the most fun, like that piece of the
Hmm.
retail is the most one of the most fun things that we do because we do
Yeah.
get to interact and
Yeah.
share our excitement over local flowers.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not sure this is a question that you're going to be able to really answer. It's maybe more just like this, curiosity about the industry in general is people who do rent very expensive retail or I guess studio spaces. And then there's just this huge overhead hanging over and feeling the weight of that. And I don't know. I've never had, I mean, I own a farm and that's a hell of a lot of overhead for what
Right.
it's worth, but you actually like own this space that is your retail space, your studio space and so forth. I guess, do you have any words of wisdom to people who like need to have a workspace that's a floral workspace?
Yeah. I think really figuring out the numbers before you commit to any sort of
Mm.
space, because it is so much overhead. And for us,
Mm-hmm.
honestly, the way that we pay our rent, we own the bill. It's a complicated situation, but we
Mm-hmm.
own the building personally. The business pays rent. And the way that we make that rent is not just through retail, it's through all of these different things. We have had
Mm-hmm.
to really diversify our offerings to make sure that we can cover that. So if it was
Mm.
just retail, like I feel like the pressure of that is so
Yeah.
high. And then
Yeah.
I've got to be open every day. I've got to be open 8 hours.
Right.
I've got to catch
Yeah.
every sale that I
Yeah.
can,
Yeah.
um, because the overhead is so high. So I would
Yeah.
say, really understand your numbers before you get into a situation where you're
Mm.
paying rent or, paying a
Mm-hmm.
mortgage. Excuse me. And then also figuring out what mix of products and services you can best put together to make
Mm-hmm.
that number.
Yeah.
Um, and, I worked for many years without a space. I worked in spaces that were just studios that you really could not have people in.
Mm-hmm.
And it really wasn't honestly until we had this space that we had to pay, a big rent on, that we were
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, we have to diversify. We got to do classes.
Right.
We've got to do retail. We've got to do all these other things because now we have the space. We can't just use it for
Mm-hmm.
weddings 3 days a week. Like we've got to really
Yeah.
maximize the space to pay the rent.
Yeah.
So I would say, start small, really know your numbers, really understand if you can make the rent or make the mortgage, and if the things you have to do to make the rent or make the mortgage are the things that you want to spend your time doing. Because
Right.
you probably
Yeah.
could do it, but do you want to spend eight
Yeah.
hours a day every day doing retail?
Yeah.
Or would you be just as okay having a cheaper studio space and having less pressure?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I've never asked you at a personal level, but are you
Okay.
glad you bought the space?
Oh,
Like
yeah.
it was the right choice. It
Totally.
wasn't like you looked back at it and were like, oh shit, we should have never done
No.
that.
We were so my sort of the trajectory is like I worked at home, did weddings, got a studio space that was really just like a 400 square foot room in my regular job's basement, to do weddings. Then got like a little bit bigger studio space in like somebody else's garage to do, just so I was out of the house doing weddings. And at that point I figured I really did want to try other stuff. I wanted to do more than weddings. And so it made sense to try to have a studio space to
Oh,
do that
there we go.
in. Um, and it was a big commitment to buying the space, like actually like buying a space. Uh, but I never looked back. Like it gave us so much opportunity. It gave us it opened up so many doors for us.
Yeah.
And not just for our work, but for a community space as well. We host
Yeah.
community parties. We host, our local politician. We host our neighbors' Thanksgiving dinner. Like, I don't know, we host all kinds of things in the space that speaks to our desire to build a community
Yeah.
around flowers. So
Yeah.
I never regretted getting the space.
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear that.
I think that it was the space. I mean, the space is
Yeah.
like, it's the right space for us.
Hmm.
I'm glad that we didn't think like, oh, I have to be on a main street with a
Right.
retail facing space.
Yeah.
Like that would
Yeah.
not have been a good spot for us. We are a garage, basically,
Yeah.
big
Yeah.
warehouse kind of space. We can close the door and walk away. We can
Hmm.
have the doors open and have people in. Like it really is the right space
Right.
for us.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's such a great space. I love that you have it. It's such a cute space. So people should look on Instagram and so forth to see it if they haven't already. You had mentioned this a little bit, and I thought I would just talk it out so that anybody
Yeah.
who's new or even long-term experienced business owners, I think it's a helpful thing to know. So
Yeah.
if you want to invest in your business, one of the best ways you can do that is to purchase property instead of renting property. So whenever you're renting, we all know this, you're just throwing money away and making somebody else richer. When you can purchase it as a business, then that is such a huge way to build your business equity, and so forth. And so I bought my farmland and Ellen's bought her studio space. And what we both do, I think, based on what you just said, Ellen, is is we own it privately and then rent it from
Yes.
ourselves. And that is a great way to sort of thread the needle of where you can build personal equity while having your business pay for it. So this is a really handy technique if anybody listening is thinking
Yeah.
about sort of growing, expanding their business, they're in it for the long haul. They need to spend some money basically,
Yeah.
buy some property, even if you're not going to use it. I will say for me, I needed to become an S corp to be able to, here in Pennsylvania, legally rent my own property from myself, so to speak. So that's one of the sort of like legal loopholes you have to do. But becoming an S corp is not hard. It's very simple and straightforward. So I don't know if you had to do that, Ellen, for you guys or
We
not.
were already that.
Okay.
Um, our issue, I'll just say, right, if you're somebody who's thinking about buying property, we wanted to buy it as business.
Yeah.
We didn't have any information that said do not do it that way.
Yeah.
So we thought we would buy it as the business. And the things that I think prevented us from doing that were, like we could not get a business loan. Um,
Hmm.
and even if we could get a business loan, the business loan required a lot of reports and testing of the
Mm-hmm.
property before we bought
Mm-hmm.
it.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that we bought it was just from a guy who was
Yeah.
trying to
Yeah. Like a
unload
private
it.
sale. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And he was not going to wait a year for us to do a bunch of
Mm-hmm.
testing and get a loan and like
Mm-hmm.
that. It would not work that way. But we also had some really good advice from some friends that were business owners who said, um, if you decide to close the business and you own the property in your business
Mm-hmm.
name, it's a lot more complicated because you're going to basically have to keep the business running to
Yeah.
have that property.
Yeah.
Where if you own it personally and rent it back, then if you decide to close the business, the property is yours. You can do what you want with it, but the business,
Mm-hmm.
you're not paying business taxes. You're not doing all of that piece with the business. And this is just like a logistical thing, but
Yeah.
that really was such good advice for us because we just never, I mean, we didn't have any experience in that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And this couple did, and they had bought a property in their business name and had that
Yeah.
situation. They closed the business and they're like, okay, now we still have this property in this business name that we no longer run.
Yeah.
So that was really good advice for us to buy it
Yeah.
personally and rent it back.
Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned that too, because that was another reason that I
Yeah.
did it the way I did it too. So yeah, it makes good sense that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice. Any other thoughts on retail? I'm trying to think. I'm trying to make sure I covered all the things I thought
Mm,
were important to know about like value proposition and just finding your customers, not being the right
yeah.
florist for everybody.
Yeah, I think, with local stuff, and maybe this is the same for conventional florists, although I think when you buy from a wholesaler, you have a little bit more flexibility in ordering. One thing I've seen people try when they're doing retail or maybe like subscriptions or, one-offs where it's like, I'm going to make arrangements for a birthday or,
Hmm.
you can order. I don't
Hmm.
necessarily have a retail shop, but I'm going to do deliveries.
Hmm.
Is like the getting of the materials, um,
Mm,
like
yes.
having stuff on hand to make designs. So
Hmm.
I've seen people who have said, okay, I have to offer, if I'm going to offer a delivery, I'm going to have to offer it 5 days a week or 7 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
And that means that you have to have product available to you on all of
Right.
those days. And if you're not also doing other stuff, like that was partly why we were like, we'll do classes, we'll do weddings, we'll kind of mush everything together. So it's not like we're just buying flowers for retail, not selling them, and then having nothing
Mm-hmm.
to do with them.
Mm-hmm.
I would say like it's okay to start retail small. You can say like I do deliveries or I'm open 1 day a week. And
Mm-hmm.
that way you can plan, okay, my grower is going to come on Thursday morning. I'm going to make all the stuff on Thursday and then I'm going to open Friday and I'm going to put deliveries out on Friday. I know that people think like, "Oh my god, nobody is going to go for this model. Like nobody is going to only get stuff from me on Friday. What if the person's birthday is Wednesday? What if it's
Mm-hmm.
Sunday?" Like I get all of that.
Yeah.
But the risk I think is much greater to be open all of those days and try to figure out how to have product fresh for all of those days when you're
Yeah.
still starting out and you don't have a lot of orders. I would say this isn't like my same strategy for Saturday. Mush everything into 1 day.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Force people to just do it on that day. And then if it works, if you're busy, expand to a second day. But I think it's okay to start small and not, again, be everything to
Yeah.
everyone. Oh, you want
Yeah.
something on Sunday? Of course I'm open on Sunday. Oh, you want
Right.
something delivered at 7 o'clock at night? Of course I deliver then. Like
Mm-hmm.
really just, it's okay to start small and, you know, build from there.
Yeah, I agree. I've always wondered that about sort of more traditional shops that are just starting out,
Mhm.
who, people expect to be able to call the shop and have something delivered like that same day at a certain point. And it's like, how do the logistics of that even work? I mean, we've been trained by Amazon to have this instant
Right.
gratification mentality,
Yeah.
or DoorDash or whatever. So it's
DoorDash.
just, yeah,
DoorDash. DoorDash.
I know it's crazy. What a
DoorDash
wild
does
model.
flowers deliveries now, you know
Yeah,
that.
they do. It's
And so
crazy.
that is like this I just talked with somebody in depth about DoorDash deliveries. And that to me was like the moment where I was like, "Oh my god.
Yeah.
What?" Because she was like, I can get a request for a delivery on, a Sunday afternoon,
Yeah.
and I have to, make that arrangement and DoorDash comes and picks it up. So it's not like you're delivering it, but where do you
Right.
have product on Sunday afternoon? I mean, she's literally going to the grocery store
Oh
and
my
buying
gosh.
flowers to make this order. And I get it. Like again, like you don't want to
Yeah.
put down work, you want to take it all, you want to
Right.
build.
Right.
Um, but in terms of being like really like being profitable, being
Right.
um
Or just sanity.
having
Like,
boundaries, like,
right.
like I don't have to take an order
Yeah.
immediately on Sunday in the
Yeah.
afternoon.
Yeah.
Um, it's okay. I'm really here to say it's okay to start small
Yeah.
and to build from there and to not
Yeah.
feel the need to be everything to everyone.
Yeah. Amen to that. Like, just set your boundaries early because you're going to burn out so
Yeah.
fast, and you're not going to do the work if you're burnt out.
Right.
So, yeah. Yeah. Um, those are all such wonderful pearls of wisdom. So thank you, Ellen, for that. You've just reaffirmed that I do not want to do retail, which I
Right.
always
You can just come
appreciate when
over
someone
any
does it.
Saturday to our Saturday and visit with people and
Right,
get your
right.
fix.
Yeah, exactly. That's where it's at. So, well, thank you so much. You always have so much to share with our listeners, and I really, really appreciate that. So,
Thanks
and
for having
sure,
me.
yeah, I'm sure I'll have you back again. There's always something to talk about.
Always something.
You good to go.
Great.
Yay.
Terrific.
That was fun. I was just thinking we're not doing it today, but I was thinking we could also